Hey guys, so today we got a bit more of a serious video. So, Security Breach, it came out and it was a bit of a mess. I mean, I like the game personally. I know a lot of other people who did like the game. It's just that it kind of left a lot of messiness on the franchise as a whole, and it's gonna take a bit to recover from it. And I've seen people saying that FNAF is over because of it, and I honestly just don't see that. It had this is like our first major mess up that the series has seen since like FNAF World, and honestly I don't think it's as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. So basically in this video I'm just going to be kind of talking about where I think the franchise is going to go after Security Breach. So as far as success is concerned, Security Breach was a big success for the FNAF franchise, for Steel Wool, for Scott. It was a big success. It is one of the best performing FNAF games ever, despite being the most expensive. It is doing very well on Steam, and honestly, it's probably doing even better on PlayStation. So the game is doing very good financially, and in terms of profits, it's doing wonders for the series. And it's also introduced a lot of new fans, but the thing about this is that the new fans and the old fans have a big difference, or at least a lot of them do. Some of the new fans are happy with how the franchise is going, some of them aren't. I feel like everybody's kind of mixed. I don't think anybody is completely on one side, and I think the series can recover from that if it goes the right direction moving forward after Security Breach, because I think the main problem Security Breach has in terms of making the fans happy, the new ones and the old ones, is that it failed to balance this horror with the goofiness, because FNAF has always been kind of a balance between that ever since Sister Location came out. It's always been a mixture between goofiness and horror, and FNAF 6 is the perfect mixture of those two elements, and everybody loves that game. So I feel like Security Breach was trying to go for something in that direction, but instead of having two gameplay styles, they tried to blend them together into this one kind of weird style. Because you have these characters who aren't scary at all trying to be scary, and it just comes off to a lot of people as the game trying to be made for little kids, and I do see that. I don't know. It's weird, because the way they tried to, like, portray the horror in the game is, like, they do it well at some points, like Burn Trap's design, he's pretty spooky. The Blob, he's pretty spooky. The Endoskeletons, they're spooky. I don't know. But then, like, the main four characters are just kind of bleh. Like, they're not spooky. Freddy obviously isn't supposed to be spooky ever, but like Chica, Roxy, and Monty, they're not scaring anybody. And that doesn't bother me personally, and I know it doesn't bother many people, but there are a lot of people out there who are very bothered by the lack of scariness throughout the whole game. And like I said, I'm not in that boat, but I do understand the people who are. And that really just makes me think that the next game really has to strike a balance, because this game went too far in one direction instead of the other, and it didn't properly balance those two elements. And I feel like whatever comes next is gonna have to do that. And I think it will, because Steel Wool seems like the type of company that would learn from their mistakes. Like, Security Breach was a mess, and I feel like all that messiness that Security Breach brought, they're gonna try to fix it. They're gonna try to undo everything that they did. They're trying to patch up the game and stuff. I don't think they're gonna try to do too much to the game since it's already released, but I do think that moving forward with future games, they will try to do better within that aspect, and try to just balance everything out better, not go over ambitious with everything. I don't think that Security Breach is something that's gonna happen twice. And as far as the franchise dying, that's not happening. It's just not. Like, you don't have a series last 8 years and then just kind of fizzle out. Because every time FNAF starts to fizzle out, it comes back. It's like its main villain, you know? It always comes back. So, I don't think FNAF is going anywhere, and I definitely don't think it's anywhere near dead, especially after how big Security Breach was. So, honestly, I don't really think that that's going to be a huge problem. I do think that it's going to get back on its feet, but I definitely can say that Security Breach was a bit of just a bit bumpy. Like, it had a lot of positive things, and it also had a lot of negative things. I don't know, I would say it has more of a positive impact than a negative one, just looking overall, but the negative impact is still there, obviously. And I don't think that it's gonna go away unless whatever happens in the future does try to lean away from this. So I'll talk about the most controversial take I'm gonna have in this video. FNAF was never completely a horror series. Like, it's always just had, like, even since, like, the first game. Like, I'm pretty sure the Bite of 87, I don't even think that that was supposed to be serious. I think Scott was just trying to throw you off with what he was saying. I genuinely think that that was just a joke, and then people took it seriously. Like, I don't feel like the FNAF series was ever trying to be taken 100% seriously, and I feel like when it goes too far into, like, the edginess and, like, the seriousness and stuff, I don't think FNAF really suits that, because any fan content that I've seen try to do that has never really captured the feel of the franchise for me, and I really just don't think that that's what FNAF is, but that's what a lot of people want FNAF to be. So, I don't know. Those people are hard to make happy, but I do think that it could work out, because part of the franchise is also trying to be family-friendly and trying to be, like, marketable, because FNAF toys sell extremely well, and there's a reason Funko has had a stranglehold on the license for, like, 7 years, because it sells a lot. It is a very successful brand. So, they're trying to lean the games more into feeding into that. And, honestly, I don't think that's too bad of a direction for them to take. They're just going too far into that direction. Because I do think that conceptually Security Breach works. I do think that aesthetically it doesn't need much change. I just think, like, the censorship, for example. Like, was there any reason for them not to say that Gregory cut his knee and he's bleeding at the beginning of the game? Was there any reason for them to censor that? I really don't think there was, because all it did is make MatPat think that Gregory's the crying child. And obviously, I don't think that's what they were going for. So, really, it's just, I feel like the censorship is one thing, then it's also, another thing that I think people really don't like Security Breach for is just the way they portrayed Afton and Vanny is horrendous. I can't even, nobody can even defend how those two were portrayed. Vanny is barely in the game, and yet she's supposedly supposed to be the main villain. Like, she's not even like a common okay, not only does she barely show up in the main story, but she's not even a common threat. Like, she shows up like 3 times throughout the whole game to attack you, and she's also the lead, and one of the times is in the atrium in the Showtime segment, and all the other characters are way more threatening than Vanny, because Vanny's just skipping around like an idiot. She doesn't even try to attack you, and that is such a bad way to portray your villain. So, honestly, I feel like that's one of the biggest downfalls in Security Breach, just the villains don't work. And like Afton, I think him showing up right at the end, and that being with no build-up, I think that could have been pulled off. It was just the fact that they didn't give him much of a presence. Like, he doesn't even stay in the same room as you. And I get it's because, like, oh yeah, he's not very powerful anymore because, you know, he's been burned a few times. Then don't bring him back! Have Vanny fight you, or bring him back in a different body. Why'd they have to put him back in his original body? It just doesn't really make sense. I love Burntrap's design and stuff, but I'm not gonna pretend that he was the best decision, because he really wasn't. Like, and then the Blob, that was a missed opportunity. Like, they could have explained that better. I don't think it's the original spirits from the original games. I don't think that that's what the Blob is. But, honestly, I have a lot of evidence of that. Like, the Pizzaplex murders are probably what's inside the Blob, and then the remnant parts are the stuff that they took from the museum. But they could have executed that, but they just didn't. They're probably going to explain it in, like, the DLC or something. But that's not what you should do when you just introduce a freaking Blob that looks extremely similar to Molten Freddy, and then expect people not to think it's Molten Freddy. It just doesn't, you know? It's just so many problems with this game's story, and I think that's the main thing that really threw people off and made people hate this game. Because, put aside the bugs, every game releases buggy nowadays, you know, like, if it's not Nintendo releasing the game, it's gonna release buggy and it's gonna need a patch. Let's be real. So, I don't think Security Breach doing that was even, like, anything unheard of. It wasn't really a big deal. It's just the fact, I think the biggest offender on Security Breach is the story being way too toned down. I agree with toning the story down to appeal to a wider audience, and also making the story more understandable for new fans, but I do think it was a bad choice for the level they toned it down. Because the game literally is the most PG thing ever in any horror game, and I think that's pretty bad. And I don't think that they should have really gone for that. So, honestly, I think what they have to do in the future is stop being so family-friendly. Like, I'm not saying go, like, full-on gore, edgy. I don't want that. I don't think anybody really... Well, people obviously do want that, but I feel like most people wouldn't. So, I feel like they just need to be less restricted, you know? Like, little kids, they don't care. It's just, like, it doesn't really matter that they have to censor it that much. I don't think anybody really cares, and it'll just censor it enough to where you can get the teen rating, and then that's it. That's all you really have to do. I do see that in the newest patch, they did add some blood to the shattered animatronics textures, which obviously doesn't, it's not, like, any lore relevance. They also added it to Vanny's suit, which does make sense, but I think that the blood textures is Steelwool trying to tell us that they're not going to do the same thing moving forward. And that's kind of what mainly inspired me to make this video, because I don't think that the series is going to continue to go in this, like, super toned down direction. I think it's going to go back to where it was in, like, FNAF 6. I think that's about the level where it should be. So, yeah, I think whatever comes next is probably going to end Afton's arc with, like, you know, in the next game, I think Afton's going to be the main villain again, but I think he's going to have a much bigger presence, and he's going to actually be there, because at Security Breach, I don't think people would have been as mad about Afton showing up if he actually did something, which he didn't. So, I don't know, this is just kind of a rambling video. I'm not really trying to accomplish much with this, I'm just kind of giving my thoughts on this whole thing. I think FNAF's going to get back on its feet. I don't think we have to worry about anything. And I think Steelwool is definitely learning from what they messed up with Security Breach. And I feel like a lot of people just kind of don't really realize that or give them credit for that. So, yeah, I think we should give it time before we say anything. But I do think that Steelwool is for sure not going to try all the stuff that they did wrong. Like, over-ambition. The next game's probably going to be way smaller. Definitely going to be way smaller. Just stuff like that. Story, all that. So, yeah, that's basically all I wanted to talk about in this video, just kind of rambling and stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed, and, yeah, I'll see you next time.